Hey, Tim Sykes here with another live trade alert. This is not going to be like a huge, amazing trade. This is just a good risk-reward trade. And this is RSYS. This is a 100-day chart. You can see it's gradually uptrending. It actually broke out nicely to the 570s. If you look at like a 2-year chart, look at multiple time frames, you can see it's a nice solid uptrend. And I'm buying it, or I'm about to buy it, I think, on a nice little dip here, off of the day highs of, or the multi-day highs of 570. It should have support here at like 524. So I look at the recent time frames to see where the recent highs were, 575 and 525. So my buying it here, I'm about to buy it here at 531. I have like 5 or 10 cents a share of risk, and I think it can get back to the 570s, maybe even break out. I don't know, one way or the other, but I think. So let me just put in my order. Let's do, this isn't that volatile of a stock, but let me try to buy 4,000 shares. I did not get 4,000 shares. I got 3,926. Let me modify it. 5.32. Oh, didn't get that either. All right, I got 4,226 at an average price of like 5.315, call it. So I'm dip buying this stock. Let me just do a quick Sykes sliding scale on this. The pattern and the price, I think it's a good pattern. The price is kind of within my sweet spot. I like stocks between $2 and $5 a share. So I'm going to give this a 14. The risk reward, again, because I think it can go back to the high fives. So there's like 40, 50 cents a share of upside and 10 cents a share of downside. That's very good risk reward. It's not guaranteed, so it's not like this is like a perfect trade, but I'll give this a 17 out of 20. Ease of entry and exit. Right now you saw that I got in, but the volume is pretty light. This is a little lighter than I'm normally going to trade. So it's not guaranteed if there's good or bad news that I can get in and out very quickly. So I'll give this a 6 out of 10. Past performance and history of spiking. You have to go back and look at, what kind of chart does it have. This is a beautiful uptrend. And, this was a really nice breakout. So I'm buying it on a dip. It's spiked in the past and come down, spiked again, come down, spiked, come down, spiked, come down. So the next is probably a spike. I don't know where support is going to be, though. Like, this might take a little while. So I'm filming this. This might not be a sell, the same day or even the same week. But because of the chart, I'm willing to give it some time. So past performance history of spiking, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. What time of day is it? I'm buying this kind of midday. My personal schedule, I'm about to go do yoga. So it's not great. I'll give this a 12. Reason catalyst is purely just the chart here. So it's not anything huge, but I'll take it. 6 out of 10. And then market environment, I think that we're in a pretty good environment, especially for these kinds of plays. So I'll give it an 8 out of 10. So it's a 69. This is not huge out of 100, but it does fall pretty much within my 70 to 100 kind of methodology. The higher the number, the better, the more confident I'll be. I'm not like hugely confident in this, but I do think that the risk reward is pretty good, and that's what matters most, I think. I think I'll actually change this. I'll change this to a 20. So it's at 72. You can change it. It's not like a perfect science, because there's so much upside given the chart versus downside. I think that's pretty accurate. And you can see here, I can already sell for like a penny or two profit if I really want it, but I don't want to. So we'll give it time. I would love to sell this in the high fives, and this is just a nice little chart play, because there should be a lot of support here right around 520, 525. So I'm getting in at, I think, a good price. We'll see. Thank you. All right, so I just actually sold YS here in the 561s, 559 area, so call it 560, into this little morning spike. And this isn't that huge of a trade. It happened so quick, literally. Here are some of my executions here at 561. I don't know why Interactive Brokers isn't showing more of it, but just to give you an idea, that's where I sold it. And I was dip buying it in here a few days ago. And this is, this is kind of a weird trade. You know, I alerted it in my long-term newsletter because at first it was going to be a short-term trade, but then I was like, oh my God, this moves so slowly. And I'm really just dip buying it because, you know, I guess I'll post my intro video. I don't think I even posted that. I'm not well rehearsed here, or this isn't all planned ahead of time. I was buying basically just because of this long-term support here at 525, and I averaged my buys, some at 530, some at 527, and I just sold into this spike. You know, I didn't have to. It'll probably go further. But this is a nice gain, and my whole goal on this was just to buy it at support and sell it, you know, near the multi-week, multi-month highs. Maybe it breaks 570, 580 and goes to 6. I don't know. When you don't know, you just get out. And let me just show you, you know, this is a pretty good spike for this kind of a stock. It's nothing huge. I don't want you being like, oh my God, this is an amazing trade. It's just a decent trade. And I had a few thousand shares. I mean, you could have bought 1,000 shares and made like $300. Or bought, you know, 500 shares and made $150. Every now and then I will do this kind of a trade. I won't alert it. I'll make live videos like this. I definitely won't alert it in my short-term newsletter. You know, this might be in my long-term newsletter where I hold for days, sometimes weeks, or even months lately. My long-term newsletter has actually been doing a little better than my short-term in the past 2 or 3 weeks. You know, I had a nice big win on ISNS after holding that for a month. Let me just show you. ISNS was an earnings winner, and it was mainly a chart play too. You know, it had held this support line of 345, 350-ish for, you know, what is this, ever since the earnings spike. And I nailed this spike, by the way. This was one of my biggest short-term wins on ISNS when I was flying into Singapore, and I made 25% overnight, even though if my flight had gotten in earlier, it would have been like a 40% winner. It's okay. I'm not mad. But I dip bought it for my long-term newsletter in here in the mid-threes just because it was an earnings winner and it was holding former support here. So it's important to look back at former support levels, especially for longer-term trades like this. You know, these are nothing huge, again, but they're working very well if you have patience, and that's why I put them in my long-term newsletter. I held ISNS for like a month, and I sold it into this one day of spiking. I didn't quite get the 4s. I got, I think, like the 380s. So I made, like, again, like 30 cents a share, roughly 10%. On RSYS, you know, it wasn't even quite 10%, but I made my 30 cents a share, which sounds like nothing. But if you're buying these stocks near long-term support, and they have good news, you know, they're not just breaking out because like a newsletter is pumping them up. They're breaking out due to good news. RSYS just had a contract win yesterday. I actually thought that it would spike yesterday with their contract win. And, you know, yesterday when they announced it, you got a little spike and a nice close, but today was the real spike. So sometimes, even if you get a contract win, the stock reacts the next day. This is the beauty of these stocks. They are so underfollowed. You know, if Google or GE or Bank of America, any of these stocks that CNBC talks about every single second has some big news, you know about it really quickly because there's thousands of analysts and millions of shareholders and everybody's going crazy. With this, these are inefficient stocks, and RSYS allowed me to show it, and I made roughly 1,500, and ISNS allowed me to show it, and I made roughly 1,500. So, you know, a few $1,000s on these little plays over a few days. On RSYS, what did I hold, like 2 or 3 days? And ISNS was like a month. So it's not an exact science, but I'm glad to show you a few examples of this strategy working. Thank you.
My name is Tim Sykes, and I teach people to trade stocks. I am a self-made multimillionaire.
So this is the ideal trade that I'm going to talk about. I want you guys to understand every single aspect of this trade.